without ever telling the story, then no one knows your name. Like the idea that like if you don't know the story you're connected to, then how can you be expected to know who you really are? Like a name is like, because remember that a name, especially even, I think about it in terms of even like Jewish culture or even in like a lot of Indian cultures right now, like they still don't name the baby for like 5 days, after the child's born, because they want to get to know the child and then go, oh, this name best fits. It's a way of declaring something over their life. And I'm like, wow, how many of us, because we're not connected to our story and our families got so jacked up, our name has lost its meaning and our true name has fully disappeared, and this one always, I love how this one ends. Obviously, that maybe I'm a king, because it just hits men in such a unique way, because they're like, what if that's a possibility that because you don't know your story, you forgot what you're really capable of? Or because you've been told only a part of your story, you're carrying the work that your parents never did. You're carrying the stuff that they didn't. It's Richard Rohr and so many others, but whatever's not transformed will be transferred. So all the things that they didn't work through, I'm the one that has to work through them now. But eventually, like you guys are experiencing, somebody has to say enough is enough. Like I said it a couple weeks ago, but I just am repeating it a ton right now, that he is the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. He is a generational God. That is what legacy is. But nobody wants to be Abraham. Like, I love that, like, so many people, like, when we're talking about scriptures, so many people go to, like, Hebrews 11, the hall of faith. I don't ever call that the hall of faith, by the way. I just call it the hall of disappointment. Because it is, to me, Hebrews 11 is the hall of disappointment. And all of them died without ever having seen or received. All of them died without ever having seen or received. And if that's not what you're signing up for, not having seen or received, but standing in the gap between what went behind you and what you believe is in front of you, then you're not really operating in faith of any kind yet. You're just letting circumstances dictate the way you feel and behave. And that's not the way we're designed. It's why we feel confused, because we're supposed to be standing in the gap with courage and aggression to stand against the tide that has come behind us for the sake of those that are coming after us. And that sucks. That's a sucky story, guys. I hate that for us. I wish it wasn't true, but at some point we just have to recognize that a lot of us are in this group together because that was our lot. We get to be Abraham. And that is a privilege to be able to say, it stops with me. That's the end. These things will not pass. It becomes like, it's Gandalf, you shall not pass. That's like that aggressive moment of like, no, all of hell is coming against you. And you say, you shall not pass. No, it stops here. You do not go any further. Even when it looks like, that's what it looks like, and what you're being told is irrelevant. Just in case you're wondering, if your circumstances are still now, it doesn't mean that we're not sad, doesn't mean that we're not upset, doesn't mean that we're not frustrated. I get all those things. We're allowed to feel the entire gamut of all the emotion, but we cannot move. That's what makes us men. That's stand firm, be watchful, stand firm, act like men. Be strong. Do all that you do in love. That's the reality. So let's jump into it. I'm going to go real quick because we don't have much time left, and I love this. In path number 5, you guys have the book, most of you do, but path number 5, that quote right at the beginning from Wilhelm Streckel. He says this: the mark of the immature man is that he wants to die nobly for a cause. That's the immature man. And by the way, that's like the height of most men. I want to die nobly for a cause. Woo! And then he says, that's the mark of the immature man. The mark of a mature man is that he wants to live humbly for one. He wants to live humbly for one. That's different. I don't want to just die for a good cause. Don't want to die nobly. I mean, I think that's the difference between so much of faith movements on earth right now. They're trying to win by moral superiority. We're not going to win this in culture by moral superiority. We're going to meet and find our authority in radical authenticity. That's how we're going to do it. You can't define me because of my mistakes, because I keep moving forward. And it's only proved true if I keep moving forward. I was telling a group this yesterday, but it's the reality of it all is that, like, you can say you have faith in the resurrection. I'm speaking a lot of Bible tonight, so I feel like I'm preaching a little bit. I apologize. But the reality is you can go and point at the resurrection of Jesus, but that resurrection you have faith for. The resurrection you do know about are the scars you've walked through and you're still alive. That's the only resurrection you can testify to, the one you've experienced. If all you're testifying to is the resurrection of Jesus, then you're missing out on the true nature of the gospel, which is the reality of how you've seen resurrection in your own life. That one I wasn't there for. Now, I believe the word, I believe all these things. Yeah, I know, I get it. I believe in that. But I wasn't there. The one I was there for, where I saw resurrection actually take place, are the places where I died in my life and I should be finished, but I'm still here. That's when it becomes true. That's when it starts to make sense. Otherwise, we're just spouting off information and trying to live by moral superiority, which has no real impact on culture. So I'm going to write these few things down and then we can just have a couple questions before we end. I'm just going to point to something real quick. But I say this a lot, but I'm just going to, I'm going to write it down real big up here. Own your shit and take responsibility for your life, okay? And I say this a lot. Bill Lit. God, I hate writing so big. I do it to myself every week, but it's okay. I'm going to just continue to live humbly. Okay, own your shit, take responsibility for your life. That is like one of the main tenets of what we do here. Own your shit, take responsibility for your life. Do not make somebody else take responsibility for their life. That is control and manipulation. When you try to make somebody else own their shit and take responsibility for their life, for their life, you end up trying to manipulate and control them because you don't want to own your shit and take responsibility for your life. The hard things that have happened in your life have happened because you were a participant in it. You cannot blame anyone. You are not a victim. No one is a victim. You have been victimized, but you are not a victim. And I've said this a million times, and I'm going to keep saying it. Because a victim is an identity, victimization is a circumstance. You have gone through something hard, or you are going through something hard. But the goal isn't to figure out why they did that or what they're doing. This is your job right here. Own your shit. Take responsibility for your life. That's the reality. And here's what so many have said that are smarter than me, but we need to own this. Failure is not fatal. Failure is not fatal. And that right there is going to change our lives if we actually believe it. If we begin to believe that failure is not fatal, then we can begin to move forward even when we feel like we've jacked the entire story up. Even when we fail, that's the reality. If I don't know this and I try to live this, I'm going to end up in greater degrees of shame and guilt. But if I live this and know this, I can walk forward feeling empowered by my own brokenness, which is the way it's supposed to work. That's why this entire chapter is stumbling forward in immaturity, because I'm like, oh crap, I didn't want to be here. How the hell did I get here? That's the most common phrase for men who are going through shit that end up in our stuff. They end up saying the same thing. How the hell did I get here? This was not what I had planned, and I'm actually a pretty decent guy. So how did I get here? At some point, if you're going to ask that question, you have to start doing this work and start recognizing this. And if we're going to do that, in the story of Parzival, you see this. This happens a lot in myth, but Parzival ends up being this at the beginning of the story in the story of Parzival and Quest for the Holy Grail, which we talk about in the book. But Holy Fool is, in mythology, in mythology, a holy fool is someone who behaves in uncommon ways. My brain. In uncommon ways to obtain an uncommon goal. Okay? A holy fool is someone who behaves in uncommon ways to obtain an uncommon goal. You see that a ton. That's why Paul says it in Scripture. Paul talks about the fact that, hey, by the way, we want to be fools for Christ. That's why this is what he's talking about. We act in uncommon ways that do not fit into culture. We stand out because we are looking for something that nobody else is looking for. That is why most of us, when we get into really tough situations, will end up with really terrible advice from very well-meaning people. Look, in the story of Parzival, we see it a ton. He gets a twisted knot of advice continually because well-meaning people also want to make sure that you don't get hurt. And here's the real caveat. They want to make sure that they don't have to look at their own junk. So if they give you advice that encourages you to look at yours, that means they're going to have to look at theirs. And nobody wants to do that, so they give you advice that says, hey man, don't worry about it, brother. Do you just feel good? Like, do whatever you feel like the Lord is saying. Just go ahead and whatever makes you feel good. Do you know, no, like, does that make, take a break. It's okay. No, screw that shit. We're not doing that here. That's not what we're going after. We're looking for an uncommon goal. I'm not looking for myself to settle into something. I want to go further than those who have gone before me, and I want to respond in ways that nobody else is responding because I found something better. And when you do that and set a standard, here's the real shitty part about this. When you set that standard, guess what ends up happening? People, instead of receiving you, want to reject you because they do not want to look at their crap. When you start doing this, and you start believing this, and you start acting like this, people will begin to reject you. Now, I want to make this very clear. There is many a man who has gone through our program. They did all the right stuff. They went home, and their marriage got worse. Why? Because they did all the things their wife asked them to do because their wife really wanted to blame them for all the crap that was in their marriage. But then when the husband went and did the stuff that the wife asked and he came home and was doing it, guess what she had to look at? All the stuff that was still in her life. So now I can't blame you anymore. I have to look in the mirror, which I do not want to do, which means that you have to be a better caretaker and witness to your wife's pain and take even greater hits as she's sorting out whether or not she even wants to look at it. That's a big deal, guys. Because I've met a ton of men who try to do this work and their wives are like, it sounded like a good idea. Why don't you stop? You sound a little intense now. Nobody here has gone through that. None of the men that have been through this have experienced that, I'm sure. But we have the stories of like, wow, that was wild. It didn't connect. Why? Because I'm going into this place of like, I want to walk in an uncommon goal. I'm not satisfied with where everybody stopped. And this is the point. Watch this. So this is the last thing I'll share. It's just a little picture. It's the Dunning-Kruger effect. Okay? The Dunning-Kruger effect is this. Okay? It looks like this. On this side, you have confidence. Okay? Some of you might have heard this in a different way when I say it in a minute. Okay? Confidence. And over here, you have competence. Okay? Now, here's the way life works. This is the Dunning-Kruger effect. Competence goes up, confidence goes up, competence gets greater. Here's the way it looks in our life. Over the course of our life, it looks like this, and this is where the average person settles. The average person settles right here in the middle. And we'll draw the little guy. He's like right here. He's like, hey guys, what's up? Okay. This little dude right here is the average person. Because when you start, you don't know, and I'll say it, this is what it says, you are unconscious incompetence. Unconscious incompetence. That is where you begin this journey, which means that I don't know that I don't know. I don't know that I don't know, which means that I am not only unskilled, but unaware at my lack of skill. And we overestimate our abilities constantly because we want to be further along than we really are. So we're way up here with confidence, but we have no idea how competent we are. So we just go out and we're going for it. That's like those guys that just newly get saved and like run out into the streets and stuff. I love it. Or you find something that you love and you go out and think you can do it too. It's like, I'm gonna be a rock star in 5 minutes. I just bought a $50 guitar. It's gonna be amazing. And then all of a sudden your fingers hurt and you're like, this sucks. Guitars are awful and stupid. I hate them. Okay? That's unconscious incompetence. Then number 2, we walk to conscious, the next phase, conscious incompetence. Conscious incompetence means that I recognize that I become aware of my limitations, and over here I don't know that I don't know. But here I know that I don't know. I know that I have things to work on. I know that I have places where I am still very immature, that I don't have enough knowledge, I don't have enough understanding, and I don't have enough experience. Over here I was just diving into it. Then now I'm over here somewhere and I'm like, okay, I'm starting to recognize my confidence is waning because I didn't think, I realize now I'm not as good as I thought, okay? Then we move on to 3, which is conscious competence. And this is where most people stop. We're over here and now we stop here, which is, I know that I don't know. I know that I know. I know that I know. I'm actually pretty confident and I'm pretty competent. Right here is the average person. I know I'm actually pretty okay at this. And you know what? I'm going to settle. This is where most people settle and they stop living as a holy fool and they stop going for an uncommon goal and they settle right here in this valley and never move forward. And I'll tell you what, from this place of settling, you end up with addiction, you end up with depression, you end up with anxiety. Why? You want to know why? Because you're bored. You lost your fight. I know that I know. I know that I know, and I'm good. I'm good with that. I know what I don't know, and I know what I do know, and I'm fine. But there's a whole other level that we can go to, which is this. Unconscious competence. This is the place all the way over here where I really do know. But I do it by second nature. I do it completely. You guys, when I get up and lead worship now, or I get up and play guitar, I'm not thinking about how to play a G chord. Like, I'm not thinking about it. When me and my wife have conversations now, I'm not thinking, oh, I need to explore her heart and I need to have a conversation about what she's experiencing in this. That's not even an option anymore. It just happens naturally because we've gotten to a place where we walked through this season in every area. This is not just one area of your life, guys. This is every area of your life that you value. You're going to have to walk through these phases to become more unconsciously competent in the areas you want to grow. That your skill becomes second nature and you're able to have the relationships and build the life that you want to live, even when you're not thinking about it. So I'm going to end right there. Give me a few questions that you're thinking about. Give me a few questions, a few thoughts that you guys have, and then let's go from there. All right, let's do the blessing. You guys ready? So I am the evidence of the strength of my ancestors. There are many things within my lineage that attempted to obliterate all forms of goodness. But I am the living proof that it did not work. All right, guys, thank you so much for your time, and I will see you in the community. Good night.